Welcome to The Triple Shift, the conversation for people leading at work while caring at home and trying to stay human through it all. I'm Denise Brown.
And I'm Lauren Yanoff. And around here, we believe the future of work is being written in real time by working caregivers, executives, managers, and everyday professionals balancing the triple shift of work, life, and care.
Each episode, we ask the same 3 questions to understand the full picture of what this really feels like and what it means for leadership, culture, and well-being.
We'll start with your story
And then explore how carrying those 3 shifts changes the way you see work, leadership, or success.
and finally, what you want workplaces to do differently if they truly understood both the cost and the wisdom of caregiving.
Our goal is simple: insight and connection. We want you to hear yourself in these stories and leave with language, perspective, and hope.
And when you're ready for strategy and support, that's where we come in.
Let's get into it. I am so excited about our guest for today. Christie Moore is joining us, and get a load of what she does in a day. She is a nurse who's a health educator. She cares for her husband, her parents, and she is also shifting her career with a new perspective on supporting family caregivers. So, Christie, when I think about you, I think of you having 4 shifts where you're at work, at home, you're also involved in your own self-care, and you are in the midst of studying programs to become a coach to support family caregivers. Wow, that's a lot. Okay, Lauren's got our first question for you today.
Yeah. So, Christy, that does feel like you have a full plate going on right now. So tell us about your triple shift, or what sounds like maybe a quadruple shift here.
Well, my parents that I care for them along with my sister. So they have pretty much a routine. My mom needs the most care. My dad and my mom are the same age. My mom is basically homebound, bedbound. And that's been like that for almost 2 years. We have caregivers in place that are able to work around the schedule that my parents prefer. My sister and I would like them to have more support, but they don't want people in their house all day, all night. So we have to just, make it work. And then for my husband here, he developed dementia noticeably like around 2019, and he's still kind of in the mild stage. He's tiptoeing towards moderate, but from what I understand about the different stages of dementia, he's not close to that, the middle, the moderate stage yet, but he's pointing in that direction for sure. And then my work as a nurse and a educator, patient educator, I get to talk with patients who have been diagnosed with a chronic, essentially terminal lung condition, and provide them education and support about their medication, about their condition, any lifestyle topics that they need to understand, diet and nutrition, advocating for themselves, different things like that. So yeah, all that.
Wow. So, Christy, I heard your caregiving, I heard your work. Tell me a little bit about how are you taking care of yourself through all of this? What are you doing for you?
I am continuing to usually try and get up as early as I can to have some quiet time for myself. So I super enjoy that. I like to spend at least an hour not doing anything except having a cup of tea, chilling out. I don't want the dogs to be up, but if they're up, that's okay. I'll feed them, let them outside, and they'll go on about their merry way. I'm doing my best to try and stay in touch with, a few close friends that understand, kind of where I am in this season of life. One of my best friends in Atlanta, her mom, she's a caregiver full time for almost a year for her mom before she went into like a smaller home. So she understands kind of from that perspective. And then have another good friend who cared for her grandmother. Her grandmother lived with her for a while until she went into a facility. So the two people that are closest to me have, experience with the dementia aspect of care and then taking care of older people. My husband's not older yet. I don't think he's older. And the older I get, the younger I still feel. So I'm going to say the same thing for him. So doing things with them. I am planning a girls' kind of a long weekend in April. My stepdaughter has graciously offered to come stay here with her dad while I'm gone. And that really makes me happy. And then I try to find, try and find the things that make me happy. Journaling, being part of Denise's program, those things make me happy to do as well.
That's awesome. What I'm hearing from you is you have found just a network of support. Is that true for you?
I say yes, it is a network of support in the sense that they understand where I am. So, for example, my good friend had a milestone birthday last year. I was planning on going and planning and going and planning on going. And I just figured out I would not be able to go like 2 weeks before the trip. And so I felt so bad about canceling my trip. I lost my reservation. I was able, fortunately, to get a credit for my ticket, but it was a trip in Puerto Rico I was really looking forward to. But she's like, you can't do everything that you want to do right now. I said, nope, I absolutely can't. And it was no big deal. She didn't get offended. She wasn't bothered by it. And she's like, just another day being a caregiver and stuff happens. So um, she's in Atlanta. My other good friend is here. It's like, I don't always see them as often as I would like, but I can talk to them when I'd like. So even that is support is sufficient for me right now that I get to talk to someone and reach out to someone.
Yeah, that understanding, right? That sense of people really acknowledging where you're at. And you talked about this season of life, that sense of understanding. It's so critical in these moments, right? Where people just get what we can and can't do. But also, it sounds like you have a sense of that as well. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
In terms of what I can and can't do,
Yeah, like your capacity in this moment.
my capacity varies. The week of Thanksgiving, I was at capacity and I recognize that. And it varies depending on how much interaction I have with my parents over their health issues and going to appointments. And so for capacity for that, for my dad, my sister and I were going to his appointments and then made a video appointment. And the last we had an appointment, I'm like, Dad, I can't go. Just put me on speakerphone when you get there. And we're all good, and that worked out fine. So I'm recognizing to pull back when I'm reaching my tippy top of my capacity. I went from filling my mom's pill boxes every week to every 2 weeks to give me some space. So I am trying like little things, here and there to keep my capacity where it is, so not like a battery where you're at capacity and it burns out and the battery dies. I'm like I want it to be like 75 or 80% of it and then, pull back. The other thing is just sometimes I have a few little work trips that kind of pull double duty. I get to rest a little bit. I'm not responsible for my dogs. I talk to my husband, talk to my family, but I get a little like uninterrupted time to watch Netflix or whatever.
Yeah. What I love about what you're sharing is that you're trying strategies
Yeah.
that are working for you and you're finding what's working. You're finding maybe things that you're like, that doesn't work, but this does. And it's giving you what you need. That conversation about your battery, I think, is so important because so often when we're caregiving, we'll let that battery go to 125%, right? Like we maxed it out. And you're really giving strategies that I think our listeners can relate to and maybe employ for themselves where they get to a point where before they're maxing out, they're allowing themselves that space. So it's just such a great example of
And
what you can do.
something I learned with Denise, I'd have unused gift cards for massages. They're sitting there waiting for me, but I just don't find like that is the thing that I necessarily need right now. I could absolutely use a massage, but it is not more important to me than like trying to find a way to get to see my friend in Atlanta for
Mm.
some. Like the last time I went to go visit her, it was so nice. It was chill. I could relax. We didn't have to do anything. She got tickets for us to go see like an old school concert. She arranged brunch at her home. It was absolutely lovely. And that is more important to me right now than getting a massage. Not that I won't use that, but I just don't ever think of that. So I think some of the things that I learned with Denise, like what people think, take care of yourself and oh, self-care. It's not always the common thing that people think. Self-care to me is writing my journal, bitching and moaning and groaning to my sister or my best friend, or just telling somebody, no, can't do it right now, or whatever, reading a book. It's
Yeah.
little personal things is for me is self-care, the really personal things that really benefit me overall. And I will get a massage eventually. I could definitely use one, but it just doesn't come up as top of mind.
Yeah, I love that. It is personal. And I think, Denise, I saw your head shaken. That is, self-care is very personal. And it's not one size fits all. It is really what it is for you. So I absolutely love that, Christie. Thank you so much for sharing that. Denise, I saw your head shaken. I think you want to jump in there.
There was a couple things that you had mentioned, Christy. I think, first of all, self-care during caregiving is very different than before and maybe after. And I myself have a stack of unused gift cards for massages because it wasn't what I needed. It wasn't what I needed. And I also think it's interesting you talked about not being able to make a trip that was really important. And what I love is that you receive support around that decision. I just can't. I just spoke with a family caregiver a couple days ago, and she receives a lot of pushback on the intensity of her caregiving situation. And she'll hear from others in her life, you deserve to have a life too. And she cares for her husband, and she's like, I've set it up the best I can to have a life. And moving him into a facility would be harder on my life than keeping him home with me. And I wonder if you ever get any pushback from others, acquaintances, coworkers about decisions that you make that you know are right for you in your life right now.
I think for me, work-wise, when I have the opportunity to not go out for group dinner, I don't. I When this was first going on, like right after the pandemic, there were just times like, group dinners, half an hour to the restaurant, 10 people, long ordering, people want drinks, food comes, the check is slow. You got to take Uber back to the hotel. And it's like, oh my God, that's 3 hours. Like I could have had even bad room service. I take bad room service and I've had bad room service and that's okay. People haven't pushed back that much at work. And I probably think maybe the people that aren't closest to me might think that, but the people that are closer to me don't. I mean, they remind me that, of my identity, which is different than having like all this free time to pursue my life. They just remind me of like, you are a person, you have needs and whatever you need to do to address those, like leisure time, time alone, whatever, where you can get those in, but they don't like, I don't feel guilty, when they talk to me about it. I don't feel like I'm being scolded by them, when they're trying to talk to me about stuff like that. I feel like they really do have my best interest at heart. So I do think also it's in the delivery of it too. I think people are
Mm.
sincere, right, Denise? People are sincere with their intentions. It just doesn't always land, right? And one thing I'm learning, as a caregiver through Denise's training is that, people have good intentions. They don't mean any harm. Say thank you. I think that was one of our class we were talking about people like offering supplements. And did you try this? Did you try the special tea? Right, Denise? Did you try a special tea? Did you try the vitamins? Did you try, juicing, all the things, and I have to say like, oh, thank you. I think, we're good where we are right now. Um, so yeah, all of that.
Yeah, it's that experience where others who really are well-intentioned and trying to help will offer a latest cure. You know what would cure your husband? I just read about it. I just watched a video on TikTok and it is this. And you think
Absolutely.
that is not going to cure anyone. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So you do have this desire to keep the intention was good and I need to move away from this. Thank you and I'm moving on.
Yeah.
And so what you've been talking about really is this idea that we have different perspectives and different shifts in perspective during caregiving. Self-care changes, and so we have a different perspective. And I also think how we look at work can change. So because you're in the midst of this really busy time in your life, how has your understanding of what success and leadership and work changed for you?
Well, it definitely changed a lot. So the way that I share with my coworkers what was going on, particularly with me at home, is like at our first meeting away at the Hotel Del Coronado, which is a beautiful old Victorian hotel. And my good friend just literally asked me like a single question. Oh, how's your husband doing? And I just had a meltdown at work essentially. So I cried, I cried, I cried because I'd been holding it in. I hadn't told anyone what was going on. And one person asked me, and it was like, the match that set like the hay on fire. And so after that, I share with my manager. There isn't anybody that I'm close to at work that doesn't know what's going on with me here at home. And for me, in the African American community, there's a lot of secrecy. Like you don't talk, you don't tell anything. What happens at home stays at home. But I think for me, it's irresponsible because heaven forbid I'm on a work trip and something happens to me and my sister's my emergency contact now. But people just need to understand, or if my battery is low, they understand. Or if I don't want to go to a group dinner, they understand. So I feel fortunate. My company is a family owned company. And so they really have a lot of, as far as a corporate company can be, they do have family values in terms of prioritizing yourself. There's EAP program, there's other services. So with work, the work I do makes a difference. If I hated my job, I think I would be more stressed out, but I love my job. I love what I do. I love meeting with patients, providing them education support. I love my coworkers. I feel very fortunate that I get to do what I could do. And as a registered nurse, it's been my favorite job as a nurse. I've been a nurse for a long, long time, over 30 years. So that makes a big part of it too. Um, and I try and use my vacation time when I can. Half day here, a day here, a few days here. So I, weave that in. But, there are times like it's a really busy time at work right now. And so my capacity is lower and my stress is higher. And I recognize that too. So I'm trying to have a little bit more self-care, but then just give myself some grace for being totally stressed out, not patient, not understanding, not wanting to see or talk to anyone at all, shut my door to my office and just like stay put, So that's kind of how work is with my responsibilities.
And I'm wondering if your pursuit of success has
Oh,
okay, tell us
yeah, it
about
did.
that.
Yeah, it did change. I was in a leadership development program and I dropped out of it. So it was something that I'd been thinking about for a couple years. And when I finally said yes and went through it, I didn't complete the last portion of it. So my completion was deferred until the following year. But my instincts and my like spidey senses, I just could not, it was just on the back of my mind that I can't do it, can't do it, can't do it. Because in one way with leadership at my company, is sometimes it involves a lot of travel, a lot of, conference calls. It's an East Coast based company, so it'd be conference calls at 5 a.m., different things that are just part of the responsibility of it. And if I pursued like a people leadership job, that would be what I'd be doing. And I knew there's just no way at all that I could pursue that at this point. So for me, success at work means like being happy at work. So it means like having good relationships at work. It means thinking about other things I could do besides like my regular job, being trained to be a coach to other caregivers. It means other things other than like my 9 to 5.
What's interesting to me, Christy, is you received something that you thought you wanted, this opportunity to move into a leadership track with a leadership training program. It sounds like, whoa, that's success right there. And then you realized it wasn't what you really wanted. And I'm curious, what kind of soul searching did you go through in order to really land on this isn't what I want, and it's okay that I don't?
Um, I really had a visceral, like intuitive reaction. So for me, with something, I really feel it at a gut level. So for this particular thing, before I thought about it like rationally, I felt it. I felt it, I felt it, I felt it, I felt it. And I could not get away from the feeling. I could not journal it away. I couldn't think of it away. I couldn't meditate it away. I couldn't pray it away. It was just like relentless. And that's the same feeling I had when I was planning to go on the trip. So it's a visceral, intuitive, like loud knock at a door feeling. Um, and then in terms of soul searching, I guess it's just since this door is closed, I closed this door going in this direction. What else would be fulfilling? What else would make me happy? What else would be, a good use of my abilities to be able to help people because I still love doing that. And so coaching has always been something that's on my radar. I completed a graduate degree at the University of Santa Monica in spiritual psychology, which is another set of skills that help me deal with the things I'm dealing with now. So I like thought of my education in the past and what was important and my values and being of service is a big value to me. I feel that way at work. Holding space is a big value to me at work to hold with patients. And so when I started thinking more about my values, that kind of got me probably circling back to the caregiver training program because it's just a fit for where I am. It's a little hectic right now for work, and I know I'll be able to adjust because of it. But the nice thing about it is that it's just such a good match for like where I am in my mind and my heart, about things right now. And it's just not on a corporate track. That's just like that door closed and it's like didn't give a second thought about it once I made the decision and let my manager know. It was like whoosh, it just cleared up. It just went away, you know. The gnawing feeling just left. So yeah.
What I think is so interesting is you created your own leadership track.
Hmm.
And it was a leadership track that reflected where you are in your life right now.
Absolutely. Definitely. Awesome.
Chrissy, I think it's interesting to say no to something at work, to actually reach out to your manager and say, I've thought about it. This isn't right for me right now. I'm curious, how did you phrase that to your manager? And how did you dispel any doubts that this would negatively impact you at work?
I was just concerned about letting people down who believed in me because it's a program that I was nominated to go into. And so it wasn't just my manager nominating me, it was other people talking about it and agreeing and allowing me to enter the program. So I felt like I was letting people down initially because one of the managers in particular had been asking me about it for a couple years. And I just kept saying no, 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 for different reasons. So, in terms of repercussions, I don't think I really felt like any repercussions were going to occur because I understand what's going on in my family. It's not a secret, what's happening with my family. And I feel like people just understand that the bandwidth just isn't there. And there are other things I can do at work. There are little projects I can maybe be a part of. I can volunteer to help with things. I can do other things. I was a mentor to a person that came onto our team earlier this year. So there are other ways I can get satisfaction from work without going through a formal change in position or role or anything like that. But I have not felt any repercussions at all from work, knock on wood.
That's a really fortunate place to be. It sounds like you've gotten a lot of support. I also think too, though, Christy, your story probably resonates with a lot of people. As you've been talking, I'm like, oh, I feel like we're kindred spirits here because that inflection point of wanting to do more, but also knowing you have to take a step back, I think rings true for so many caregivers. There's this period of time where you are doing that soul searching, as you and Denise called it, and really trying to figure out how do you live in alignment with what your current season of life is. And it sounds like you're really doing a great job of figuring that out. So I like you're taking the steps to create a situation that is working for you. So I just really want to acknowledge that. And because it's not easy. This is not an easy season of life. And you've said so much throughout this conversation around capacity and self-care, but making decisions that are working for you. So
Yeah.
um
The And I'm not at an age to retire, so I naturally keep thinking of like what else I could do. And then I feel like I said, am I going to be one of those people that always works because I love what I do or I like what I do? I don't see myself sitting, 5 days a week, 7 days a week, just not doing much of anything. Something I would have wanted to do if I retired is not available to me right now, like traveling. My husband just doesn't have the capacity to travel. So
mhm.
that's kind of taken off the plate, for the future right now. So there's some things that I'm grateful that I did when I was younger. But in terms of like satisfaction, happiness, I just try to keep looking at what I could do. And I think the other thing, Lauren, that I was thinking about this morning is that I think sometimes I keep myself busy to like be able to deal with my situation too.
Mhm.
So there's an aspect of not busyness for the sake of being busy. I think the busyness I'm pursuing is worthwhile for me. But I just recognize I really have not been able to sit still and just be with this all the time. I feel like I have to sometimes be doing something to help me cope as a coping mechanism for everything too. So I do recognize that I can put my fingers in a lot of pies at different times, but it helps me to cope with my situation and it helps me to channel that energy into something productive versus something, unproductive that I
Yeah.
could be doing with my time otherwise.
Yeah. Um, that's a really powerful statement that you made, that you keep busy to cope. And I want to link it back to something that you said is you had a breakdown moment
Hmm.
when you were in your you were at work. I am curious because I think a lot of people who are in this situation keep moving. What would it mean for you if you sat with what you were experiencing?
What it would be probably is just, I think I would probably be overanalyzing and overprocess it. One of my favorite things to express to myself about my life is accept what is. This is what is. Don't argue with what is in front of you. And I think if I had time to myself, I'd be overthinking this, what did I do? What can I do differently? What's going to happen? I'd be, either in a negative future fantasy or, something about the past. So that doesn't feel good to me either, to think like that. So I think if I sat with it more, and in the times I have time by myself, like in the morning, I do sit with it. There are times during the day, it's not like it's not on my mind 24/7, 365, because it is. I feel like for me, just sitting with it, that's what my journal is for. I take out my thoughts on my journal and use that a lot. I use voice notes. I do different things, kind of get the energy up and out. But if I just sat with it for a while, it honestly doesn't change what is, in front of me
Mhm.
right now. I know there are things that I need to continue preparing for in the future. That will always be, something to do to prepare for
Sure.
the future. But I personally don't want to dwell on it.
Yeah. And the emotions we experience when we're caregiving are some of the hardest to deal with. And it is very challenging to sit with those.
Yeah.
So I'm sure what you just said is something so many people can relate to.
Yeah. I mean, if I have a long drive for work, I won't listen to anything. So I don't have there's total silence. Or if I'm feeling really challenged or stressed out, I take 3 or 4 minutes to scream at the top of my lungs in my car. I am so tired. I'm so sick of this. I'm exhausted. I don't know how I can keep doing this. When I've had one of those like work weeks that have been stressful, my capacity is
Yeah.
reached towards the top. I have to find a way to let it out. So I try and find ways that way. I think for me, it's not so much more of a mental dwelling on it, it's more like an emotional
Yeah.
dwelling on it
Yeah.
that is a little bit more consuming for me because it's my parents and my spouse.
Yeah.
So my relationships with them are different. My relationships with my husband is vastly different than what I thought it would be. So it's a lot of emotional processing as well.
And emotional processing is self care too. And that screaming, that is part of that self care. And like getting all of that out, that is what helps us in all of these moments, all of that overwhelm. So that's good work.
Yes.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good for you. Well, I know that I want to be cognizant of your time and make sure we're asking you the third question. So, if workplaces truly understood what the triple shift costs and what it teaches, what would you want them to do differently?
I would want them to include it as a benefit, get some support in this regard. I don't, it's not that there isn't, but I feel like I hear more about getting support around like childcare services and support with things like that, or adoption, which is really important, space for family in that regard. But I don't feel like there's enough like emphasis on family on the other side of the decades when older and we need support in different ways that we didn't need before. Finding adult daycare, if that's something that someone needs to do, or having a person that you could talk to at work about long-term care planning or something like that. I don't think I've ever recalled in my career noticing anything like that. It might also be because I wasn't really in the need of something like that. That could be it too. But I think if there was just more conversation about getting older, what kind of services a person may need to have for support at work, job sharing or alternative ways to work, hybrid, being flexible with employees. If there's something that truly can be done at home or a few days a week to allow that to happen. There's some jobs I've had where I know like I could totally do this from home, but I had to go into an office to be able to do it. And that is that. So I would also want them to just invite people to talk about it at work. To have at my company, we have open forums or these different town halls. So I would love for that to be a subject of a work town hall or an open forum to talk about what a lot of us are going to be facing with our generation getting older and the boomers being as large of a population as they are. It's not like this situation is going to get any smaller or the population is going to shrink. It's just going to get bigger. And then with changes happening in healthcare, services, this need for services are going to be greater. And how can we equip people to be able to deal with that and confront that and navigate that is missing.
Yeah. I think you walked through so many things. And I think what we're learning in this space is some companies have some things, but not all companies have all the things. And
Mm-mm.
I think you gave a really comprehensive list. The conversation, you said, I'd love to see that town hall or that conversation, and you've started the CCC training. How do you envision a conversation like that happening?
I would envision it as making connections with individuals maybe who are in need of something like that, who I may come in contact with, and then inviting them, this conversation is powerful to you. Would you be willing to take this conversation back to where you work and advocate for something like this at work? So I envision people advocating it to have happen at work and being a part of that somehow, networking and talking with people. One thing I learned, especially after working with Denise, is that there's no shortage of caregivers that I run into at different places. And so meeting different people and asking about their work and finding out, it was just doing a lot of research on finding out from people, what's it like for you at work, or how are you supported or not supported, or what do you think, would be better at your job? Like you asked me, want some support around this area. What do you think that you would need that you're not getting at your job, that your job might be able to at least fill in a little bit of the hole of what's happening? And I think just being also vocal about my situation as well. I'm grateful. I know I have a very fortunate working situation, and not everyone does. But to that point, I feel like, if there's anything I can do to help people create a stronger workplace environment in any way, shape, or form, then I'd be happy to do that too.
Yeah, that's great. And I think all of us, we take the CCC course because we want to elevate these stories, right? We want to help people who are in these situations. When you think about something that you know now that you wish you had known when you started your caregiving journey, that you feel would be really helpful for people, what would you share?
Truly, like one of the core teachings is the 6 stages of caregiving.
Mm,
If I knew more about this might be coming, you might not be a caregiver now, but this is on the horizon for you. This is what you could be thinking about, just the same way that they talk to us about our 401ks, our retirement plans, and our financial planning. That would have gone a long way. And what the different needs are and the different pitfalls are of the different stages to look out for and to try and learn about and figure out. You can't figure out everything ahead of time, but just having an understanding that um, I'm here, so this is what I could be looking for at this particular stage in my caregiving journey. I'm an expectant caregiver, so I need to be asking questions and doing research and making sure my own stuff is in order and different things like that. Yeah, I think that's like a foundational pillar to understanding the world of caregiving, is that entry point into the 6 stages caregiving. I feel like that's a great entry point for people to learn and understand about what is all involved in all the different stages of caregiving.
it's awesome. Great. Maybe we'll link that in the show notes and we'll share a
Oh,
little bit.
we will. And I
Yeah.
apologize, my video has not come back. But I wanted to mention something. Christy, when you were talking about what could employers do, Lauren and I were part of a conversation with an employer that we're going to provide workshops for in 2026. And they did kind of here's what we're going to do. And they invited employees to come to learn more about this particular employee resource group. And interestingly enough, there was so much chatter in the chat room about one of the benefits that's very difficult to use. And it was related to getting approved for family medical leave. If there was one common theme that came out of that workshop, it's that benefits are hard to use. And I think that's really important, that an organization add benefits that are easy to use. I hear hair on fire stories about trying to get family medical leave approved during the worst moments of a
Mhm.
family caregiver's experience. One, for instance, was trying to get approval as his mom was dying. And the holdup was he needed his mom's signature on the paperwork while she was dying. So they figured something else out. And it's those kinds of logistical nightmares
Mhm.
on top of really stressful situations that almost feel, for lack of a better word, inhumane. if we're going to add in benefits, let's make sure they're easy to use, to access, to implement, so that we don't have to jump through hoops, run around a brick wall, ask too many people for help in understanding how to actually use this benefit. And so that we get the same answer regardless of who we ask, so that the answer doesn't change depending on who you ask the question to. So it's not just adding in benefits, it's adding in helpful benefits that are easy to use.
Mhm. Such a great point, Denise.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead, Christy.
It's something that, with open enrollment can be something that's reviewed every year. Those are the kind of benefits that are kind of out of sight, out of mind until you need them. And you have to go back and figure out, now, how do I do this? And when do I do this? And what do I need? So it'd be great if it's something that could be a refresher of those type of benefits could happen as well. Not only, like you said, Denise, being able to access them and utilize them. Don't forget there's this benefit here. And if you need to do this, what you need to do. So people have, it stays top of mind, sort of, even if it's on an annual basis. Or I know, like my company, we have these training modules that we have to complete every year on compliance and privacy and this, that, and the other. So it'd be great if something like that also were included, a benefits review of this is what you have access to, this is when you might need it. So people can review that every year as well. So they're not scrambling when they need the benefit to try and figure out how to access it, to your point, and not be able to find the right person, the right form, the right portal, the right link, the right documentation, the right signature, you know, scrambling to get that information together at the worst time possible in their lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
It's one of our goals to actually streamline that. Okay, I think we
Yeah,
did it. Christy, it was
we do.
great to have you with us today.
Thank
I'd
you.
love to know how our viewers and listeners can connect with you.
The best way to connect with me right now is through caringourway.com. I am a certified caregiving consultant in training. And the best way to access me is through the directory there to find me and to set up a connection call with me. And we can talk about what's going on and see how I can best serve you.
Awesome. Awesome.
Awesome.
Christy, thanks for all you do. It was great to connect with you today.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you.
I just thought that conversation with Christy was so powerful, Lauren. I'm curious, what's really staying with you since our conversation has ended?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, first of all, I just want to acknowledge everything that she's doing to really take care of herself throughout this entire situation. She's so grounded in such a difficult moment. We all know caregiving isn't easy. But, as she was talking about benefits and what companies can do, I just want to share my own experience with that, because when I was in my job and I decided to take a leave with my dad, I feel so fortunate to live in a state like California where we have paid leave. But that experience of trying to access those benefits really shifted my perspective. And the state tries to make it so easy. I didn't have to get my dad's signature because he was incapacitated. The doctor just had to state on the forms that he was. So that was relatively easy. You still have to wait for the doctors to sign off on everything. But I waited I thought everything wasn't going to be approved. My company's based in Ohio. They didn't really know how to fill out the paperwork. It initially got denied. I had to appeal and submit additional documentation. So I didn't think I was going to get reimbursed for this paid leave. 9 months later, after my dad had passed, the check for the reimbursement came in the mail. Now, I'm fortunate. I had a great job. I had money in savings. I could bridge that gap. And I had kind of written off that I probably wasn't going to get the money. But the shift for me in that experience is so many family caregivers don't have that. They don't have the savings. They aren't able to bridge that gap, and they're counting on that benefit. Or they live in states that don't even have a benefit like that, or work for companies that don't have that kind of support structure. And I think with policies that are shifting and changing, I think about work requirements that are coming, how difficult that's going to be for people to access benefits now. There's just so much that we can do differently, policy wise, workplace wise, to make things easier for family caregivers, even when we think we're making it easy. That I am optimistic as we continue to have these conversations, we'll get the point across that there's things we need to do differently to just support people in their darkest moments.
And the other takeaway with Christie is she wants to work. Her
Yes.
work is her reprieve. And we hear that over and over from working family caregivers, that the ability to stay focused and productive on something that is unrelated to caregiving is so important mentally and emotionally.
Yeah.
And it's critical that we think about these benefits that keep people working. And the reality is, we need people working in order to support those benefits like Social Security. Because if we don't have that workforce in place, all those systems really start to feel even more stressed. I really think that we want to keep in mind what's the benefit and how easy is it to use,
Yep.
because that's critical. Today's conversation on the triple shift. If something resonated, share this episode with someone who's carrying a lot and could use some clarity.
And for leaders and organizations ready to build workplaces that actually work for caregivers, we'd love to help. You can connect with Denise at caringourway.com or me, Lauren, at theempoweredexec.com.
And if you're navigating your own triple shift, know you're not alone and your story matters.
We would love for you to subscribe, leave a review, and tell us what you want to hear next. It genuinely shapes this show. Thank you for listening. Take care of your people and take care of yourself.